Well, hi there, racing fans, and welcome to another edition of Winning Ways, where Laf's come back and you look pretty nicely suntanned, but I thought you went in for a couple of procedures.
Yes, and I had two procedures. I can't mention them on the air, but it was fantastic.
Don't worry, we mentioned them last week.
Oh, fantastic.
Yeah,
Very good.
okay.
No, they went well. Just let the public know those procedures went well. And I was in Mauritius for the week. And very good, wonderful time. Gold Circle and a few of the other South African affiliates sponsored the race, and there. It was wonderful. They really looked after us. It was very interesting racing, and I can't believe how narrow the track is.
It's narrower than Gravel's going to be.
Oh, Grave will be twice its width, twice its width. But they love it. The crowds turn out in their droves, and a very good day's racing.
Was it your first trip?
Yeah, I've been in Mauritius a good few times. I've been racing. First time I raced at the track.
So all good.
All very good. Yeah.
Okay, well, we've got an interesting program today because we've got a lot of international news, but more importantly, we've got the recipient of one of the big prizes at the KwaZulu-Natal Awards evening, Jack Ramsey, on the show. Now, we had Jack on a couple of years ago, 3 or 4 years ago, most entertaining man. We'll ask him a few updates in his life and a few of the things that have happened in the past. It should be fun, but let's go into 3 to follow. Well, there we are. The next big sale is a 3 million rand ready to run sale. 3 million, that's a huge prize.
Huge money, huge money. Good race to win. And there's stories about there's going to be a consolation for $1 million, and things are looking up.
Fantastic fun that will be. Let's go and have a look at our first of our 3 to follow. We go to Clearwood on the 11th of September. We went and found one interesting winner, and Mike the Cock stepped it out, Captain Al filly. 1,200 meters it went. It absolutely slammed the field of fillies. It looks very good. Kopiako.
Yeah, this is the money was down. It was reputed to be a very, very quick filly, and it's by Captain Al, so no surprise there. And by Fitri Hay. Nice to see they've still got horses in this country because they got them all over the world.
Well, I saw they had a big winner in Ireland again over the weekend with the Magnias, so it's fantastic that they're still here. But this looks like a good one.
Yeah, it looks like a good one. A horse that did find support was, I think it was Pepperdine down the inside, the grey horse in the Eoster Silks. And this is very green. The winner's very green, and so is the horse on the right-hand side of your screen.
The horse to watch as well here is just in your picture in the Robert Scott's colours, the black sleeves with the black and white checks. That ran second, and that's a Grey's Inn filly, and I think that's pretty useful to fade to grey.
Absolutely. Yeah, this winner now, Anthony changes his stick and drifting away from the grandstand, just greenness, but getting clear of the field quite comfortably. And Anthony's now got his stick in his left hand, is running away from the grandstand, but well clear of this field. As James says, the runner-up, Fade to Grey, runs a cracking good race in second.
Well, that ran 4 lengths in front of the third horse. When you see juveniles win by this far, you might believe that this is a very good filly, this daughter of Captain Al.
Yeah. If you take a second horse out, James, it was an absolute slaughter.
Yeah, absolutely. We're going to move on from there, and we're going to Durbanville, 14th of September. Sister Act this was, and this is beautifully bred Trippy filly, but she was all at sea around Durbanville. She got a lovely action, just could not get it together. Let's go and have a look at her.
Yeah, this filly runs in the silks of Vogelbosdrift, Mary Slack, and it jumps well. It gets out the gate well, and you have to be well placed at Durbanville. It's a speed track, and gets it into the race, and gets it, I think, into the box seat or so, but a little flat-footed, as you'll see when it comes into straight, James.
Yeah, you can see that she's battling a bit here. She's really in a perfect position. Richard Faris put her in a perfect position. But when she comes for turning for home, she just really doesn't know how to put her legs together. And she'll improve from this markedly. She's got a tight gap up the inside where she can't get through. And he ends up not really having much room on her. And you'll see now she's really all at sea.
Yeah, she's definitely, for my money, her horse is going to go further. But she's quickened away from the rest, chased after the leader, who's got a very good ride by MJ Baileyfeld. And Savannah Song's gone clear, but this is a good debut. She's starting to realise what it's all about late in the race, James. Nice filly.
Just hands and heels, lovely big strong filly. I think that she'll go on and improve immensely from that run. That was a really nice run. Could be something to follow later in her career. Let's have a look at the next one. Clearwood, 15th of September. Maiden Plate 3-year-olds. Now, I'm not sure that this was a wonderful field of horses. Atzo's Hill won the race, but it was quite a nice looking horse, this horse. So we picked him up in the parade ring. Beautiful looking horse, and he's got a very obscure pedigree.
Well, Al McDom.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, he might have been an obscure racehorse, but he's got fantastic blood. His son of Daniel.
Well, the point is I don't think anyone knows this horse stands in this country. You know,
No.
he was trained by Mike de Kock. Mike said that he had collapsed hocks, which was against him, and as a result, didn't race very well. But they sent him to stud. This is his first foal to run. Tony Rivelin trains it. Al Ciberano is his name, and he's a beautiful looking horse. I think this horse got some ability.
I think so. It was a very good debut. And I think we'll hear a bit more of this Al McDom, showing that pedigree does come through. Sons of Daniel all over the world, they're stallions. So it's interesting. Who's stallion? Lenny Taylor?
He's with Robert Smith and Lenny Taylor, and they leased it from the Sheikh.
Okay.
This is what Mike told me, and it's let's go and have a look at it. It's drawn 10, and no circle around it. It's in the yellow colours, yellow and black, and it's immediately off the pace.
It's 5 off the left.
Yeah. You'll see that he just doesn't really know what this is all about. He's got lovely action. I think this horse will improve markedly on this run. People will look at the run and say, oh, not very good. But look at him, he's now he's starting to get lost.
Yeah, he's lost in the race. The eventual winner is Atzo's Hill. Has had the form to win, has gone off quietly, and has got them off the bit, the youngster. Arthur Marcus has got Salesman in second. And look how this horse picks it up here, James.
Yeah.
He suddenly realises a little bit what it's about.
Yeah, and I think that there was a tailwind, and the horses that were in front were the horses that were winning on the day, so it was very hard to get to them. But he's still a bit green. Salesman's lugging onto him a little bit, and he really doesn't know what it's all about. I think you'll find market improvement from this horse. He just looks like a horse that will come on quite nicely.
By Al McDom, Al Ciberano is his name. And this horse is a lovely horse, and it might be the start of what could be a useful stallion. Who knows?
Yeah, it's good enough for us to put on the show. Been a paucity of horses to put up there, but we certainly like the stallion. And stallion might be well worth looking at it if you breed a horse in Natal. Maybe worth going to. We're going to go and have a look at the blast from the past, and we picked out a horse called Persian Punch. Now, a lot of you might not remember him. Probably one of the greatest stayers that ever lived in England.
Excellent horse.
The Queen's Vase, he won the Jockey Club Gold Cup, he won some fantastic races. So let's go and have a look at Persian Punch and a blast from the past.
Punch is still fighting on. They've got 2 furlongs to go in the Lady O Goodwood Cup. Persian Punch in the centre. On the near side, it's Jardine's Lookout. The far side is Swing Wing. Behind them is Savannah Bay, then Sentinel and Boreas right down the centre of the course. But it's still Persian Punch. The roars of the crowd for the veteran. But he's being grabbed now by Jardine's Lookout on the near side. Jardine's Lookout goes a neck up. Persian Punch, can he pull it out of the fire again? He's fighting back. He's coming back at Jardine's Lookout. He forges to the lead. Jardine's Lookout coming at him again. Persian Punch has just won it.
There's a few things that stand out with him. Firstly, Simon Holt was commentating when he won a Doncaster Cup, and he said he's out on his own, but he's not alone. And it's a great line because that was him. You know, everybody wanted him to win. He always did things the hard way. And beating Millenary probably sticks out in my mind as much as anything. Made all of the running at Newmarket. Looked like he was going to get well beaten. Millenary, Pat Edry came there running away on the bridle and just got to the tough part of the race. He was just beginning to meet the uphill finish, and out went his head. Just didn't want to be denied.
Persian Punch in the centre, Millenary challenging on the far side. Then in behind them, Foljana's still got a chance, followed by Savannah Bay and Porter sixth them. They run down into the dip. Millenary is taking it up now. Foljana looks the danger. Persian Punch battling on, and Castari out wide, almost four in a line. All four under maximum pressure, and Persian Punch is rallying very gamely on the near side of Millenary. Foljana between them. Persian Punch, he's got his nose in front for Millenary. It's going to be tight. Oh, that's close.
And he was well named too. Well, he was half well named anyway, because he was like a Suffolk Punch. He was that big, had a slightly sort of Roman nose. He kept on season after season, and so few flat horses, you know, reappear, you know, have two-year-old career, maybe a 3-year-old career, and then a lot of them go. He didn't. He kept on coming out, kept doing it. I always said to David Ellsworth, I'd love to see him go jumping, you know, because, you know, he'd have been a really good hurdler and a tremendous chaser, but, you know, sadly, you know, ultimately he died on the racecourse, you know, in a flat race at Ascot, when all their life they'd said, we're not going to send him jumping because he means too much to us and we want to look after him. But it was a sad way for it to end for him, but he will always hold a really special place in my heart, and for many other people as well.
Well, isn't that wonderful? Thanks to Johnny Frankham for the use of this footage. But that was probably the gamest horse I've ever seen in my life. We've seen some brilliant horses, but this horse was gutsy.
Gutsy over ground. You know, we've seen some great stayers, especially in Europe and that. But this horse here was, as you said, you're out in front, but you're not alone. A great line, a wonderful gallop. And both those films we watched now, he was a beaten horse.
Yeah, I just thought we had to see this horse. He just is so... That's heart. That's heart. He's getting beaten by the horses, and he just wants to win. Puts his head down on the post to win 2 very valuable prizes. What a wonderful horse. And we hope you enjoyed it. We're going to move on and have a look at our Plum of the Week.
To go, Via Africa the leader. Cotswolder's towards the inside, then Golden Mirabilis behind that, Princess Julieta, but Via Africa being kept together at the 300-metre marker. Down the inside, Cotswold, Princess Julieta, Golden Mirabilis all trying to run on, but Via Africa, she skated away from the opposition, and just like Floyd Mayweather, she's totally in control. And Via Africa can get eased down, she won by 5. Torre Bay second, Princess Julieta third, and then Pink Martini.
How was that for a comeback? And just unbelievable.
Unbelievable. She ran
56.
56 and change, which is a very, very fast time. I had a quick word with the owner, Andre Hopeflesh. You know, he's been lucky enough to be in big city life and that, and asked him just briefly what his plans were, and he said, no, they're sitting with Duncan, they're going to go and look at the Cape Seas, and they're also swirling around thoughts of racing overseas, and it's a wonderful time because she's a young filly.
Well, the interesting thing was, if you're a betting man, you had to have a bet on her. She was absolutely slung in at the weights in this race. 1 to 5 with your bookmaker, 2 to 7 on Interbet. You could have got 2 to 7, 3 to 10, as much as you liked about this filly. You know, it's 30% on your money or 35% on your money is unbelievable on a horse like this when you can only get 20% with the bookmaker. You haven't got an Interbet account, you better get one. Johnny Stark says so. Yeah. And he works harder than any man. He gave me this information late last night.
He's a toiler.
Yeah.
He's a toiler.
Well done to him. Unbelievable. Well done, Johnny. And thanks to you, we're going to go and have a look at current affairs.
Right, welcome back to Current Affairs. And this time, once again, it's a time of the year where the seasons are changing. We haven't got Group 1 racing, or Group 2, or Group 3 for that matter. But we have got a situation where there's good racing overseas. James has got some very good facts of what's run overseas. But we did get one race for you. And James, it's the St. Leger, the oldest race in the UK. And you know how it was named?
No.
No. Well, remember?
I know the Oaks was named after a line of trees or something.
No.
The Derby was after Lord Derby.
No, the Derby, Banbury and Derby spun a coin.
No.
and
Derby won.
Derby
so
won.
got it, yeah.
His house was called the Oaks. He had this big mansion called the Oaks.
But it had a line of oaks going down to the house.
Okay, but the actual house is called the Oaks. But let's get back to the St. Ledger, James.
Yeah.
His big mate was a military man, Gerald St. Ledger, and he named this race after him. He said it's his mate, so he's going to name it after him. And it's I think the oldest classic.
Oldest classic.
And it's a hell of a race because it's a tough race.
But they've changed it. It used to be at the last leg of the Triple Crown, because we watched Oh So Sharp win last week. She won the 3 legs of the Triple Crown.
That's right.
The Guineas, the Oaks, and the St. Ledger.
Is this not a Triple Crown
It's
anymore?
it's now for older horses. You can race anything in it. It's not for 3-year-olds anymore, and it has been for quite some time.
Oh, I didn't know that.
So the St. Ledger is not a 3-year-old
it's not
race
a classic anymore then.
Yeah,
if
well,
they're older horses.
Yeah.
Well, that's very, very interesting because, funny enough, the first 4 all horses by the winner was
Get
by.
it out.
I'm getting it out. 2 were by New Approach, 1 was by Galileo, and the winner was by Sadler Wells' other son, Monsieur. So the first 4 all by Sadler Wells. Why is the dominance so overgrounded?
Well, it's interesting. We'll chat later about the Keeneland September sales, which is a big sale in America, and we'll talk about the averages and that. But there is a new horse on this horizon that looks like he's going to be the next Northern Dancer, I would have thought.
Okay, so Galileo, New Approach, Monsieur, as they all said as well. Let's kind of look at this race. It's called the Ladbroke St. Ledger. It's at Doncaster. It's a Group 1.
Buried away in the centre from Havana beat Ralston Road with a star on their cap, and Still Talent weighted with back towards the tail end as they swing for home, heading to the last 5. Kappa rushes in front, Tongue lolling out, stalked by Leading Light, Galileo Rock, Secret Number on the near side of Great Hall, Libertarian mid-division from Havana beat Excess Knowledge. Ralston Road is away to the left, Foundry bustled up, and still Crowley sits and waits on Talent, racing now for the final 3.5 furlongs, and a steady pace is on the increase. Kappa Rush is driven along by Barcelona. Now O'Brien shakes up Leading Light to mount a challenge. Galileo Rock, Whiteface produced down the centre, chased by Secret Number. Libertarian on the move. Talent beginning to slice away through the field. The sprint's on for home, down towards the last quarter of a mile. Leading Light the first to commit. Galileo Rock challenges. Great Hall running a huge race, switches to the far side. Secret Number. Talent has to squeeze her way out. Now she finds daylight. Libertarian runs on, down to the furlong. Leading Light, Galileo Rock. Here's Talent still running on strongly. Leading Light got first run. Talent continues to finish off in behind, but Leading Light holds sway, and Leading Light shines and wins the Ledger for Aidan and Joseph O'Brien. Talent second, then Galileo Rock, followed home by Libertarian.
There we go, a strong team. Leading Light, very good, James.
Yeah, he's a top stayer, and I think it's Joseph O'Brien's first St. Ledger winner. But the filly that ran second won the Oaks.
Yeah,
she's a 3-year-old Talent. Yeah,
she's very good.
She's very, very useful. I think she was fancied to win the Guineas, and she got run out of it by that grey filly, didn't she? Get
yes, I know her. Richard Hannon's filly. Yeah,
absolute star.
Sky something.
Sky Lantern.
Sky Lantern.
And funny enough, Richard Hannon had a very good day in France over the weekend, but a couple of people had good days in France, and we'll chat about them just now. I think we're going to go and take a break, but the St. Ledger, as you say, font of information you are.
Absolutely. Great race, real stamina, and the Irish have come and won it.
It's got one of the most beautiful trophies you'll ever win in England.
Is that right?
In winning a horse race, it's huge. It's really worthwhile winning if we could win it, but we're not going to win it. So let's go and have a look at
the break.
A race. There'll be a race somewhere. I'm sure there's a race at Parks or somewhere.
Right, welcome back. There we go. That was talking about the St. Ledger before we went off to the race, James. But there's been a lot of racing overseas and in France. So good race in France, good race in America.
Ireland had their St. Ledger as well.
Yes.
On Saturday, and that was won by a son of Teofilio. Dermot well trained it for Lady O'Reilly. His name was Valois de Coeur.
Yeah, Valois de Coeur. Yeah.
Valois de Coeur.
Yes.
Yeah, obviously, since you've been in Mauritius, you can...
Yeah, I've learned, it means, do you want a ham sandwich?
Yeah.
That's exactly what it means, and it's wonderful that Weld, Lady O'Reilly, because Lady O'Reilly has raced a few in this country, which is great to see, with Michael de Kock and of course, with Mr. Sanders.
Yeah, Chris Sanders, they certainly were involved together. It only cost 30,000 as a yearling, this one. So not very expensive. Just going across to America, Wise Dan won the Woodbine Mile. You know, Wise Dan, he's probably the greatest turf horse in America. John Velasquez, Charles Lopresti. Wiseman's Ferry is his sire.
I don't know that.
Wiseman's Ferry has a brother in this country called Scripture. But more importantly, he's out of a Wolf Power mare, this horse.
Okay.
Yeah. And
he ran it in a quick time, didn't he?
He ran 1:31.75, which was a course record.
He is a good horse, Wise Dan, sure.
He's a fantastic horse. He's rated 127, 128 on the international ratings. We'll talk about that now, but he's a multiple Group 1 winner. Let's go to France, Lef. Some interesting racing in France.
Well, Trèves for me was the Prix Vermeil. Again, Motivator, you know, the sign, a Derby winner. You were looking at Teofilio, Motivator, all these different horses coming through from Coolmore.
Yeah, that was Frankie's first Group 1 winner since he's come back from his little sabbatical, his enforced sabbatical by the Jockey Club.
Yeah.
And fantastic to see, and he rode it for Cricket Head, Malbrook Head. We know it's Cricket Head, and so it's fantastic and this is a very, very good horse.
Wonderful that Frankie's back on top, because people were saying he started a bit slowly, and well, he certainly got back to the top.
The Japanese had a pretty good weekend in France.
They're strong. You know, we've seen them come over in races like the Arc, and they brought over good horses year in, year out. And they were involved with 2 features, weren't they?
Yeah, the one was Kizuna, which is a young horse. He's a 3-year-old. He won the Prix Neil, and he beat the English Derby winner, Ruler of the World. He beat him a short head.
Oh, great race. Huh?
Fantastic race. And so the Japanese are beating the Irish, which is quite interesting. I know Mike de Kock was telling me they bring horses to Dubai, and he says they bring some really smart horses. I think they won a couple on Dubai
Deep
World Cup.
Impact, one of the stallions.
Deep Impact, yeah. This horse is by Deep Impact. Kizuna.
Oh, is it?
Yeah. The other race that they won was the Prix Foy, and Olfev, which ran second in the Arc last year. Soumillon rode it. This is his prep for the Arc, and he won the Prix Foy easily. And
Camelot got scratched.
Yeah, Camelot got taken out. Apparently the ground wasn't right for him, and so he will probably now just go for the Arc.
Yeah. Yeah, so that was good, very good racing. There's a lot of build-up. It'll be an interesting build-up. We'll start get the betting for the Arc, and then after that, you've got the Breeders' Cup coming through, and our season's getting to swing
the Arc's
again.
3 weeks' time, which is, I thought it was a bit later. I thought it was in November, but it's obviously beginning of October.
Yeah, in October, yeah.
A couple of other things left. Vistoria, by Oratoria, won the Park Stakes as a Grade 2.
That's good.
Eddie Lynham, Wayne Lorden, that's in Ireland.
So that's the stallion that stands down with Pepper.
Aventure, yeah.
Aventure,
Pepper,
yeah. So that's a good plug for them.
So he's a Group 2 winner in Ireland. And the Blandford, which is a 2-year-old race in Ireland, was won by Boer de Crécy. But the interesting thing here, Johnny Murter, not only rode it, Johnny Murder, but he trained it as well.
Okay.
His first group winner that he's trained and ridden.
He's a talented
man. He
man.
has dual licenses, and which is
it's unheard of, yeah.
Unheard of, yeah. But it would be nice to see Anton Marcus get a license, trainer's license, and ride them too.
Yeah, it'd be interesting.
That would aggravate him.
Yeah, that would really.
Okay, your American statistics, the Keeneland sales. Was enormous, and the leading stallion Galileo, he had 5 sold, more than 4. He had 5 sold, average 523,000 thing. That's very interesting.
I don't know, the buzzing noise.
A little bit of a buzzer. Someone's got a buzzer going.
Check my pacemaker now. That seems to be right.
The pacemaker all right?
That's right, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, that's one of the new additions.
The pacemaker's gone to the front.
I thought maybe the Chinese one you'd got in Mauritius wasn't very good.
Made in New Delhi, my pacemaker.
Oh, is it?
It's very good, yeah.
That's
this pacemaker led the Arc field once. Yeah.
Warfront. This is the
Great
horse
stallion.
that I've mentioned might be the new Northern Dancer.
I agree with you.
This horse is unbelievable. Anyway, he had 34 through the ring in Keeneland. He sold 27 at an average of 475,000 US.
US.
He had the top price, 2.5 million. And he's a Danzig horse, and they say he's a split of Danzig. He looks just like
But is
Danzig.
Declaration of War his? I think it is.
Yeah. Well, they bought a whole lot of them.
Yes.
The Coolmore bunch went in and were flat out. They
Who stands him? Do you know? Where
he stands at Claiborne in America.
So Galileo was. You said there were still some Galileos.
Galileos, there were 5 Galileos sold. He was the top average, 523. But Warfront is the new horse and looks like the right one. He's certainly the right horse.
Yeah, that's right.
Now,
so that's very, very interesting. James, I don't know if you saw this. Did you get a quick look at this?
Yeah, I had a look at that. Yeah.
Just a quick line came from Kenilworth Racing that the Competition Appeal Court dismissed appeals by Pindi Kema, Africa Race Group, and South African Groomers Association. So they have. They've lost their appeal there. That just was a Kenilworth Racing media release. Thought we'd touch on that.
More importantly, touching on statistics and matters, NHA and the merit ratings. Now,
South African Racing.
Yeah, South African ratings. I was independently reading through the merit ratings because there's a ratings document overseas called and we are a member of it, the International Federation
For the best horses in the world, that one.
And Longines publish it, the International Federation of Horse Racing, okay? And they have the ratings. South Africa is a member of it, and their ratings read like this. 130 Black Caviar, 129 Wise Dan, who we mentioned,
yes.
I think 19 Group 1s, 128 Novelist, Game On Dude, Toronado, Animal Kingdom 125, Dawn Approach 125, Fort Land 125, or Ferv 125, Al Kazim 124, Ambitious Dragon, the champion in Hong Kong.
Yeah.
The champion in Japan, Gold Chip 124, Military Attack 124, St. Nicholas Abbey. We know St. Nicholas Abbey. I think he won 9 Group 1s.
Yeah, well, I think 6, but I know he won the coronation 2 or 3 times.
And then on this list, if I go down, because I was obviously looking for South African horses, I found at 120 3 of our horses, Shay, Variety Club, and What a Winter.
3 very good horses.
3 top horses.
Horses.
Now they rated. We are a member of this federation,
yes.
Because I went through the members. Okay,
yes.
And there's South Africa with the NHRA's website and name and everything. Then I went to the NHRA. Thought, let me have a look at our ratings.
Yes.
What do you think we rated in South Africa?
In South Africa, how
Yeah, which is meant to be an international
must
rating.
be the same.
No, 124. These horses are rated in South Africa.
So they're rated up there with the horses we've just been talking about, all those top horses.
Okay, so then I decided to phone the NHRA. Matthew Lips really couldn't give me much except to say that it's something to do with the Asian Racing Conference. I thought, let me phone Mike de Kock. I phoned my friend Roger Smith. He was in a meeting until 12 o'clock and he couldn't take my call and wouldn't take the call. So I read this. The NHR, this is Mike de Kock sent this to me. It's going in Sporting Post tomorrow. And it's on his website today. And he's written this article. And it's quite long, but I'm going to read you some of the important parts. The NHR recently took a drastic step of raising merit ratings of local horses. They cited 2 reasons for this. 1, after considering, and this is what they said in their own words, after considering the rating levels achieved in South African graded races over the last 5 years, it is quite evident that many graded races fell short of requirements, in brackets, as stipulated by the Asian Racing Federation, and if not rectified, will result in a number of races being downgraded or losing their graded status. This would potentially be a major problem for the breeding industry and the status of South African racing. After considering these facts, it was agreed by the board of the National Horse Racing Authority. They never discussed it with anyone, I can tell you, because it was a shock to the KwaZulu-Natal people, to raise the turf ratings in major centres by 6 points.
Yes, there was a hoo-ha about that.
Okay, so they raised the ratings by 6 points. They've now put the winner of the July, Heavy Metal, as rated 1 pound inferior, or 1 point,
equal to St. Nicholas Abbey.
1 point inferior to Animal Kingdom. Okay.
Yeah.
A knee-jerk reaction if ever I saw one. This is what Mike de Kock says, okay?
Yeah.
Before making the decision, did the NHA consider the facts, okay? Now, he goes through all these facts. Reason 2, another aspect was the rating improvement shown by the majority of South African raced horses campaigning overseas. Many had increased when competing on the international stage. And so Mike says, a wild, unsubstantiated statement, question mark. Sure, some Mike de Kock trained horses have shown improvement. Most left here as young and still on the up. Most horses do mature and get better with age and often improve in another environment. And what I said was that our horses, because of the time gap in getting them from here till when they raced, is 7 months. Horses are entitled to improve 7 pounds over 7 months. Yeah. So maybe. Mike has only ever taken 2 horses which previously raced in Australia into Dubai. Zerhi, he arrived at 98 and one season went to 105. Reem arrived 104 and one went to 107. Then he says, better tell the Aussies to up their ratings by 7 pounds. Asiatic Boy arrived from Argentina 108 and went to 120. Honor Devil arrived 104 and went to 121. I hope the Argentinian ratings are being changed dramatically, he says. What about Ireland and England? Archie Penko arrived at the Cock 113 and ended up 120. Warsaw 100 went to 107. Rerouted 108 and went to 115. And Falstaff 12 went to 113. Surely UK and Irish ratings should go up at least 7 pounds. And then in thing, many had increased when competing on the international stage. Consider 2, Igugu, Emotive, Happy Valley, Grand Chete, Irish Flame, all dropped in ratings when sent overseas. Should we not be lowering our ratings on this evidence?
He's done his homework, Michael.
Well, he then puts us, brings out the ratings as our NHA rates them, and the international ratings. They make absolutely no sense at all, because Al Kazim, who won the Coral Eclipse, the Prince of Wales and the Gold Cup, 3 Group 1s in England, is rated the same as Heavy Metal, Jackson, What a Winter. Farr won the Lockinge and ran second to Jan Frankel in the Juddmonte. He's rated the same. St Nicholas Abbey, 6 Group 1 wins, including the Coronation Stakes three times. He's the same rating as Heavy Metal, according to this. Now that we get further down and we start looking at this, Declaration of War won the Queen Anne Stakes, rated the same as Shay Shay. And as he says Shay Shay's been over there now and raced in England against the best Group 1 horses, has been competitive and run to a rating of 120. In this country, he would be 126.
Yeah, that's very interesting.
It's
and
absolutely,
you say he submitted an article to the Sporting Post.
Yeah, he says some points to ponder. Heavy Metal Jackson won What a Winter, he rated equal to St Nicholas Abbey. You know, when you read this,
it makes you wonder why it was more.
It makes you wonder who's in charge.
Or more deliberation, or more.
Well, certainly talk to the people that count.
Yeah, you have
in
to,
the industry,
have to talk
and
to people that count.
therefore, I know, you know, we're not scared to say what we think is contentious, and we say it, and it's there
there's two
for all
sides.
to see.
They will probably respond to Michael's article in the newspaper.
I would love to see the responses, because the responses, as far as I can see here, and he says here, and he has no desire to badmouth our handicappers. Generally, I believe they handle a controversial and difficult job with much skill. I'd imagine their hands were forced when implementing these new ratings. That's the point. Yeah. Who forced their hands, and who's entitled to force the handicappers' hands in implementing something as draconian as this?
Did the handicappers have some say or any input, do you know?
Well, it seems, chatting to Matthew, he wasn't quite sure, but it seemed like the Asian Racing Conference. Now, who attended the Asian Racing Conference? Probably the NHA.
Probably. A few people go.
And let me tell you, my little knowledge of what is right and what is wrong, I would have thought that they didn't consider all the facts when you read this, because this is absolute nonsense.
Yeah.
And
the counter argument is horses like Igugu have come down, and horses have come.
Well, that's what he says quite clearly here. He says a whole lot have come down. Maybe we should be lowering our ratings. And this is a total knee-jerk reaction, and really, certainly, without considering the facts. Sporting Post, it's on Sporting Post, you can go and read it there.
It all falls back to the problem of getting our horses out. If we're getting a lot of horses out, without all these protocols to stop us and getting horses out, they'd have a bigger spectrum of horses to determine our ratings from.
And on top of that, as Mike quite rightly says, and this is the most important point of the whole lot, he says he's not taking horses to Dubai that are not any good. He's trying to win races in Dubai. So he's taking the best horses we have here to Dubai, and they're running against horses that are not the best horses in Europe, because those horses are being kept for the whole European season. As you look and you see all these horses that are racing, they might come for the World Cup night, some of them, but mainly those stables that come to Dubai are bringing their Group 2 and Group 3 horses. And that's why we went to Turkey and won that race with Monsieur, because they were taking the wrong horses to win those type of races. Mike takes the best horses.
I agree with you. I agree. So
and it's a shocking situation when we can be dictated to this by whoever's dictated to us, and really...
we seem to get the short straw everywhere with regard to Turkey. That was just out of school.
Sure, and as far as the horse sickness restrictions are concerned. Anyway, most interesting to read the merit ratings. We'll be chatting to a man who really knows something about racing, Jack Rand.
Yeah, always a very, very interesting man, Jack. I'm looking forward to what he's got to come up with, and it's wonderful that he's been given another award for his years of service to the industry.
Perfect. We'll be back with your call.
Of service to the industry.
Perfect. We'll be back with your call.
Ladies and gentlemen, recipient of the Anita Akel Special Award for this year. What is a 90-year-old? Is it an octogenarian, we got an octogenarian, a non-engineer? Shall I just call his name? Jack Ramsey! 94 and still going strong and still working. Well into his 90s, ladies and gentlemen, and he's still seen to be working every single race meeting, and he still does a lot of cycling and a lot of walking, and not so much running these days, but we'll forgive him for that. He's absolutely passionate about the game, and he's just, I'll use a word that Paul Lafferty often used, he's a font of memories, a font of information, and he's blown away by this award, and so he should be, because he's just a very special person.
Ladies and gentlemen, it's been a wonderful journey. Racing people are the greatest in the world. They're compassionate. They're always there for you when you're in trouble, and always there to give you a good hand. And I've enjoyed every moment of my racing career. And I thank you. I don't know, there's not a bigger word than gratitude, but that's what I feel tonight. Thank you.
Well, there we go. Well, we're lucky enough to have Jack on the show, and geez, Jack, you dressed up, scrubbed up pretty well there, what?
Yes. Yes, a week shopping.
A week shopping?
To get me ready, yes.
Yeah. Okay, well, was that the first big award you've ever had?
No, I had a small award when I tipped 8 winners once at Newmarket, and when I was on the Royal Daily Mail.
Well, they give you a voucher.
They gave me a little cup and a cheque.
No, but this is different. This is an achievement award.
This was something great. I knew nothing about this.
Yeah.
This is a complete surprise, you know.
Well, I tell you what, many deserving recipients of this award. I don't think any more deserving than you. You know, we chat a lot, and you're a font of information. And now we're going to chat about racing and everything. But before that, I just want to put a picture up quickly of you when you were in the Navy.
Navy.
Yeah. Well, we're going to just have a look at Jack when he was in the Navy. Have we not got a picture of him? You know? Okay, we don't have a picture of him when he was in the Navy. Of course you have a picture of him when he was in the Navy, but we got to take a break.
It was an early part in the Navy that picture was taken.
Roy Royale, a ransom of choice. Two Australians that came over here and have shown how good they are. They've both won in the recent weeks. But we're going to move back to Jack. Let's have a look. Can we get the picture up of Jack when he was in the Navy? Okay, well, that's
there it is, yeah.
Jack, you know, I can't believe you haven't changed at all. How did you get from the Navy into the horse racing business?
Well, I wasn't racing before I went into the Navy. My father and mother both had horses, and I used to ride work for Frankie Horniman, the Australian trainer here. Yeah. And
did we allow Australians in there?
Yeah, he was an amazing guy. He was lucky to be here. He came out on that ship, the Waratah, and he got off here to see Durban, and he liked Durban, so he stayed. Well, you know what happened. The Waratah went down with all hands between here and Cape Town. And he trained for many years then, up in Overport, actually.
Yeah.
He was up there.
And was he a trainer in Australia before when he came here?
He was a trainer in Australia, yes.
So then he decided he's not getting all the way back to Australia,
No,
and he found you.
Well, I used to help him in the stable, and I used to ride work and that. And my father had horses, and my mother. And that's how I actually worked at the Durban Turf Club for 30 shillings when I was a schoolboy. Yeah. Used to come and count the money from the gatekeepers.
Did you say 2 for you, 1 for me?
Not
that old sort of, you know, that Indian hand trick that you probably learned.
No, he said you can't. The gate money, especially on July days, used to pile up. You know, it were 2 and 6 penny pieces in those days. Yeah. It was 5 shilling, and these things used to fall on the floor, and they used to have to sort all this out. And I worked every week like that, and that's how I got into it. I used to punt as well with my 30 shillings because the jockeys were all friends of mine too at those days, you know.
You've seen some pretty good jockeys in your time.
Yes, I have. Yeah, I've seen the greatest: Gordon Richards, Willie Shoemaker, and the local boys: Tiger Wright, Cocky Feldman, Stanley Amos, Pierre Stridham, Mace Roberts, all great riders.
Who was the greatest of all of those South African boys, if you have to put them into that?
I would say Tiger Wright. Tiger Wright, he just had everything, you know. He was a great judge.
And Moreira's, this Brazilian sensation in Singapore, is not the only guy ever to have ridden 8 winners on a day.
No, Tiger rode 8 winners at Newmarket one day. He had 8 rides, 8 winners.
And his daughter was in the car park.
Yes, his mother, Bernard Fadeherb's mother, was in the car park. She was a little girl then. And every time Tiger went past on the way to the course, to the start, she'd say, "How are you going to go, Daddy?" And he said, "I'll win this." And it came to the last race, and she said, "Are you going to win again?" He said, "Yes, I'll win again." She said, "Oh, you just keep saying that."
Because in those days, kids weren't allowed on the racecourse. You had to be 18 to get on the racecourse.
You could go in the car park.
Yeah.
I used to, when I was a little boy too, in Maritzburg, used to park the car, sit and watch the horses. Yeah.
I spent many a day as well in the car park, sitting there. Yeah. It just shows you how it's born into you, and maybe just it becomes a fascination.
It did. It just became a fascination. My father was a printer. He had a big printing works in Durban, and he wanted me to be a printer. Yeah. And I just wasn't cut out for that. And
not exciting enough.
No. He said to me, "If you knew as much about printing as you know about racing, you'd be a millionaire." But I just couldn't be a printer.
Did you want to be a millionaire?
No, not really.
No. Money doesn't seem that important to us guys that, you know, punt horses and enjoy.
That's right.
Yeah.
No, enjoy. A horse is a great animal. They're magnificent. And they're the stars of the shows, which a lot of people don't realise, actually.
You've seen some good, great ones in your time. Who would be the greatest?
You know, that's a very hard question. I've seen, as you say, there have been some wonderful horses. I mean, Java, Elevation, Radlington, Casbah and Joburg, Pocket Power, Sea Cottage, Mowgli, Illustrador, Dynasty, Gugu, all great horses, and I've probably missed a few too.
What about Horse Chestnut?
Yes, he was a great horse too. You know, Epitombi was too. I mean, there's so many that I've seen.
Overseas, Secretariat?
I saw Secretariat win by 31 lengths at Belmont.
You were there?
I was there, yes.
How did you get there, Jack?
I was on holiday.
Huh? It sounds like a nice place to be on holiday. Belmont was probably the most important race in the world.
Well, Gavin Brown, you know, he knew Sam Cachuana, who's a Red Indian, who ran Belmont. And he wrote to Sam and said, Jack's coming over, you know, look after him. And they did. They took me all around, showed me everything. Now, Sam became great friends.
Mm. And how was that day? Can you cast your mind back and tell us about that?
It was a great day's racing. Yes, I won the exacta in the first race. Just numbers. I took 5 and 9. I remember they came up and paid about $60 or something.
And Secretariat himself?
Oh, he was a great horse. I had 31 lengths he won by. I mean, it was amazing. He was at the finish. The others were just coming around the bend almost. It was, you know.
Well, when you watch that movie, Secretariat, it's just, that's the actual footage. It's just incredible.
Great, yes.
Yeah.
No, he was a great horse.
But a beautiful horse to look at as well. Did you see him in the parade ring? Big chestnut horse.
Big Red, they called him in America.
Big Red.
Yeah, Big Red. He was a great horse. Yeah, he was.
Absolutely fantastic horse. Getting back to South African jockeys, and you say Tiger Wright was one of the greatest. Pierce Stratum you mentioned there?
Yeah, Pierce Stratum's a great horseman, I think. I think he's a good rider. And Anton Marcus, also, I think he's a fantastic. And Anthony Del Peche, two good riders of present day. I mean, those two are very good riders.
And Mace Roberts, no one has ever done what he did.
No, well, Mace went overseas where he made his name. I think many of our riders, if they went over, they'd also do well, I'm sure. I mean, they have gone over, ridden overseas. Anton Marcus on JPEG, those two races he won, and Del Peche, and I think they would all do well. Our top riders, I don't think that the overseas jockeys are better.
You went to Ascot, and Johnny Gorton you knew quite well. I was great friends with John Gorton. Yes. He was a fantastic guy. He told you to back one, but he was wrong.
Yeah, he was wrong. It was a strange story. I wasn't going to go racing, and Brigadier Gerard was running that day, and I wanted to see this horse. So I went to Ascot and paid £2 to go in the sort of cheap enclosure. And you could stand near the parade ring there. There's a walkaway and I was standing on the corner, and the old guy who was on duty got talking to me, and he said, "Where do you come from?" I said, "South Africa." He said, "Do you know John Gorton?" I said, "I know John very well." So he went and got John. John dragged me into the royal enclosure. And into the jockey's room too, and I met, because I knew quite a lot of those riders from when they came over here too, you know, to run national races. And John said to me, I'll win the first race on Lord Rosebery's horse. He said, you know, you can have a bet on this. And as they were all traipsing out to go to the parade ring, Lester Piggott walked past me, out the corner of his mouth, he said, "I'll beat him." And he did. It was on a filly called Grosser, an American filly, never run before. And he fought out the finish with Johnny, beat him.
Well, Lester was probably the greatest jockey I ever saw. How did you rate him?
Yeah, he's a great jockey. He had a great sense of humour too.
Great sense of humour, yeah.
He's a fantastic guy, man. I remember he won the first $1 million race when they introduced it in Chicago. And the reporters all asked him after, "When did you know you'd won?" He said, "Yesterday."
And that prize.
Yeah, he was fantastic. He really was. He's a great guy. But he was. A lot of people thought he was miserable, but he wasn't, because he had a cleft palate, and he was deaf, and he sort of lived in a world of his own, really. But when you got to know him, he was a good guy.
I remember when he used to come out for the international meetings, he always used to find me because I knew him from John Gorton's times in England when I worked there. And we'd sit at the cocktail parties and whatever. And he was so funny. He's got such a dry sense of humour.
That's right, yeah. Yeah, he says, often he said, talk to my money here, this side.
Yeah. Well, that was a great story when the guy asked him for a $5 this side, and he said, come around this side, and the guy said, no, give me a $10. And he said, no, I heard better this side.
I remember when he rode the Monster, that epic ride in Maritzburg, when he was left 20 lengths and still won. And he called the starter something, because he left him and he got fined. And his wife phoned me the next day and said, Les has asked me to phone you and tell you that he'll never ride in South Africa again, which he did though later, because I think the Maritzburg Turf Club paid his fine eventually.
Yeah.
Because it was ridiculous.
That was crazy, wasn't it?
Oh, it was crazy altogether, yes. Yeah.
But as a rider, I believed he was the best. How did you see?
He's such a good pacer, judge of pace. He's amazing. I mean, the way he rode far too short, really, for his size. He was tall for a jockey, but he had such wonderful balance with a horse, you know, and horses seemed to react to him.
Well, when they got the Chilele across the arse, they reacted, right, because he gave them a smack. They knew they got a smack. It came from about 6 foot above his head.
Gordon Richard was like that too.
Yeah.
A great whip rider.
Yeah.
When he hit a horse, it took off, you know. Yeah.
Well, I just recounting when I was a kid in England, I recall him winning on a horse that they backed at Pontefract or one of these places. In fact, it was a northern track, and they put him on the news that night because he hit the horse 22 times in the last furlong and changed the whip. It was stride for stride. It was a mastery. Look, the horse came off second best, but the horse won, and they'd put their money down. A guy called Payne trained it. I think Mace will remember, and Johnny Gorton and them will remember. They were a punting stable in Piggott Close home. They put it on BBC News at 8 o'clock, and he got banned for a month for abuse of the whip or whatever. But he just, I know that a lot of jockeys who I know rode against him said that you never knew how well he was going. He always used to kid to you, and sometimes he had nothing and sometimes he had.
Well, that's the sign of a great jockey, I think, if they keep a little bit in hand. I've noticed Anton Marcus a bit like that. Yeah. He keeps just that little bit when you get alongside him. And Tiger was the same. Tiger was hardly ever used a whip.
Yeah,
he was a hand. He had magnificent hands on a horse.
Stratham the same.
Stratham's the same. They're not whip riders. No. With Charlie Behrens, he was a slapdash, but he was a good rider. But whip, you know.
You mentioned Stanley Amos. That Amos family, they were steeped in racing.
Stanley was a great judge too. I remember I was taken to Millerton, the first time Jerez won, and I was on holiday, and Pete Lowe said, I want to come to the races, I want to put some money on a horse. And I said, what? He said, no, this horse is going to win. And he said, I said, no, I'm not going to come. No, he sent a car for me, and I went out, and I put the money on, the horse won. And I always remember Stanley, he leant over to Cookie, and he said, you've never had one as good as this. And he was right. He went on to win race after race.
He was an absolutely brilliant horse.
Absolutely, yes. Oh.
Jack, we're going to talk now a bit about horses, because jockeys, you know, you obviously see some fantastic guys. Shoemaker.
Shoemaker was a great rider. Yeah, he was. And Lafford Pinkay, I saw her. And there was a lady rider. She married Fred Astaire afterwards. Robin Smith.
Oh, Robin Smith.
Robin Smith. And she was top rider at Belmont at one stage.
What about Julie Crone? Did you ever get to see her?
No, I didn't see her. But I remember Lafford Pinkay said to me about Robin Smith, he said, that girl sure can ride.
Did he know her?
Yes.
You enjoyed going to America for your holidays?
Yes, I did. I've been to America many times. I fought with the Americans in the war. I was attached to an American squadron, actually.
That was in the Navy.
In the Navy, yes. Yeah.
So, did you start in the South African Navy?
I was in the RNVR, and then I went to England, and I went into the Navy, and I was put through an officer's course, and then eventually I got my own command. I finished up, I was captain of the Northern Duke in the end.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
No racing on that boat.
No. I used to nip off now and again to see the race when I could, but you know.
Interesting you haven't got any tattoos. I thought sailors had to have tattoos.
I have got a tattoo.
Yeah?
Yeah, well, these on my arm.
Oh, there you go. Well, a nice horse. Let's have a look at that one, Jack. You know, I'll tell you, some people should be proud of a tattoo like that instead of putting hearts with the things. Got a great horse through there. Who's that horse?
Horse.
Which horse is that?
I don't know. I just
the guy
yeah.
So you have, because I know Herman's got a few tattoos as well.
It's got the one.
Yeah. Well, kids today, you see them, they cover their whole arms.
That's right.
Their whole bodies with these
In
things.
those days, it was a painful procedure.
I think more painful than today.
Oh, yeah, it was terrible. It was really painful in those days. Yeah, today they've got sort of around to anaesthetize you a little bit, but this wasn't. It was raw needle.
Well, Jack, you know, it's magnificent chatting to you about these things, and there's a lot more to chat about. So what we're going to do is we're going to wrap this up, and we'll come back and we'll talk about all the horses and that next week, all the horses and the trainers, because you've been around some fantastic trainers and
yes, I have.
And horses too. And you know, we talked about Secretariat, but the South African horses are what interests me, and your years as a scribe. You know what you've done.
Yes.
Actually, that's great. So let's wrap with Jack, and next week we're going to be back with him and have a chat to him about the horses.